Hello and welcome to this video in which we will show how to do some probability computations on random variables. So to begin with, let's think about a random variable x. And suppose that this random variable x describes the number of times that a particular software method is called in 1 second. X will be random because it depends on what the user does, which we can't predict ahead of time. And so X takes values anywhere from 0, so the software method may not be called at all in 1 minute, up to 30. So X is a discrete random variable. Let's suppose that we know the following probabilities about X. The probability that X is greater than or equal to 20 is 0.03. The probability that x is equal to 0 is 0.12, that x is equal to 1 is 0.4, and the probability that x is 1, 2, 3, or 4 is 0.8. So now the question arises, how do we use these probabilities to find other probabilities? Well, so for example, we might ask ourselves, what's the probability that x takes the values 0 through 4. Well, how would we figure this out? It turns out that we have the probability that x is equal to 0, so we've got this guy covered, and we have the probability that x is between 1 and 4 inclusive, so we have these ones covered. And you can see these values are the ones that we're interested here in this probability. The way I can compute this is this part of it is disjoint from the set of values 1 through 4, which means that I can write this probability as the probability that x is equal to 0 plus the probability x is 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the probability that x is 0, this guy is 0.12. The probability that x is between 1 and 4 is 0.8. And so the probability that I'm looking to compute is 0.92. So that basically says, again, that the probability that x falls in this region is given by 0.92. Well, let's look at another example. Suppose now I want to find the probability that x is less than 20. You can see here that I have the probability that x is greater than 20, greater than or equal to 20, so I have the probability that x takes values up here, and you can see that I'm interested in finding the probability that x is less than 20, that is, so I'm looking at this interval. The way to do this is I can say the probability that x takes a value is 1, and I can subtract from that the probability of the values that I'm not interested in, that is, all these guys up here. So I can subtract the probability x is greater than or equal to 20. And when I do that math, I get 0.97. Okay, so again, the idea is that by using these axioms of probability, I can take some given probabilities and from those compute other probabilities. As another quick example, this time however with a continuous random variable, let's define y to be the amount of time in seconds that a particular software method will run once it's called. And let's assume that we can measure time with infinite precision. So in principle, the values that y can take would be anything on the positive real line. Let's suppose that we know these probabilities about y. The probability that y is greater than 10 is 0.12, and the probability that y falls between 1 and 10 is 0.8. And suppose now that I want to find the probability that y is less than or equal to 1. The interval that I'm interested in, if this is 1, I'm interested in the probability that y falls in this interval. You'll notice that what I have I have the probability that y is equal to 10, so out here I have 10, and this tells me the probability that y is greater than 10. I also have the probability that y is between 1 and 10, which is the probability that y lies in this interval. So you can see that what I want to get here, this probability that y is less than or equal to 1, is going to be the probability that y falls on the real line. And since y has to fall on the real line, that's 1, minus the probability that y falls between 1 and 10. And then I also subtract the probability that y is greater than 10. Again, what I've done here is express the probability that I'm interested in, this guy here, in terms of the probabilities that I know, and I understand how to apply these probabilities by looking at the regions that the probabilities cover. So this is an example of how to do probability calculations using a continuous random variable. I hope you found this video to be useful and interesting. Thanks for watching.